In this lesson, let's begin going over the interface for the T-Splines plugin in Rhino 5. When you first install T-Splines, you should have these windows docked into your Rhino interface. I'm going to go ahead and close the new in version 3 window. I'm going to click and hold the All Commands tab. This is all you really need to work with T-Splines. I'm going to go ahead and close this window. Then I'm going to take this dock here and put it right below the command line. So it's all I could see all my commands. Next thing I want to do, I want to make sure I go into the options for T-Splines, which is this purple wrench. Go down here to T-Splines UI and make sure Show Text Viewport HUD is checked. Then hit OK. Next thing you want to do is click the power sign here. You should see this little toolbar pops up. I'm going to go ahead and click this blue part here, pull it right down, and I want it right next to the grid snaps here. So I'm going to move it over to the right until the blue is right on the right side of my screen, and let go. That's perfect. Again, it's your preference if you want it somewhere else. I choose to have it down here. When that's finished, make sure if you go all the way to this little area here, see this little red X, you want your hotkeys to be enabled. So I'm going to click it. You'll notice now that the viewport HUD is giving some feedback in every viewport I click, which is good. Let's begin by going over some icons which we'll be using in most of the course. Since this is an introduction to T-Splines, I will not be going over the more advanced commands. We'll just be covering mostly basic sub-D modeling and editing. The first thing you see, the second icon that you see here is called the Convert NURBS to T-Spline or Convert Rhino NURBS to Polymesh. Usually we will use this to convert our T-Splines to a NURB, or you can import polygon meshes from an external program like ZBrush or Maya, and you can convert it into a T-Spline so you could manipulate it within Rhino. The next icon here is the Primitives tool. If you click and hold it, and let's dock it down here, you'll notice that you have your box, you have your plane, your sphere, a simple cylinder, here's your cone, you have your torus, and your basic quad ball. I'll go over these shapes in the next lesson. Over here we have the pipe tool. Basically, you can draw any NURBS curve in your viewport and it will convert it into a T-Spline object. A pen face, I don't really use it much. T-Spline from lines, not really using this much, so I'm going to go over to the next one. Loft T-Spline surface, I don't really use this as well. Fit T-Spline to curve. I'm not really using this at all, really. Smooth toggle, this one we'll use a lot. This basically will be your toggle to go between box mode and sub-D mode. We'll cover this also in the next lesson. This is your extrude face, edge, or curves command. This will apply symmetry and also take off symmetry. This will give you the ability to thicken a T-Spline surface. Here's how you could add crease or remove creases on your edges or surfaces. Here's how you can insert a point, or if you want to add an edge on a surface. If you have multiple surfaces that are joined on the same line, you could pretty much insert your edge ring or edge loop. Here's how you can bevel edges. If you want to slide edges, this is the command. Append faces, I don't really use this. Fill hole, I generally don't use it because I can just use the bridge command. Over here is the subdivide face command. This is so you can add more polygons to your model. Duplicate faces, I don't really use it. Delete faces, I don't really use it because I can just select the face and delete it myself. Well, points, we're going to cover this in the next lesson. Merge edges, so you can combine two edges together. Again, if you want to fill a hole, I can just use the bridge command, which is this icon here. You have your match surface command. Pull control points, which I don't really use. Selection sets, that's more advanced. Again, I'm not going to cover it. Interpolate surface to control points, I don't use this as well. Retopo snap, this is if you're doing some reverse engineering. Again, we're not going to cover this. Flatten points, I'll show you an easier way to do it, not from here. Weight T-Spline points, not really using this. This is your UV editing. Make uniform, I don't use this as well. Edit layout. Standardize. If you want to flip your normals of the surfaces. Define regions, T-Spline conversion to NURBS, I don't use this. Mesh T-Spline, not really, I don't use this. Extract edges, no. Split curves, I don't use this as well. And extrude lines, I don't use this as well. One last thing I want to cover. Let's go into our options tab. A couple of things I want to add here. If you go to the hotkeys tab, there's only a couple of things I want to add. Actually, just one. You can add shortcuts. Every time you turn on your T-Spline's toolbar, which is located down here, all your hotkeys that are in Rhino are not usable. So you could pretty much set up a whole new set of shortcuts if you do please. The only thing I want to add is if you go into this drop-down menu and select TS Bridge, the only button I want to use is the letter B. Make sure you hit Assign, and let's see what else we can add. I think that's pretty much it. And a couple more things I want to discuss before I end this lesson. If you look in your UV text HUD, these are all changeable. So if you want to go from selecting objects, if you click it, now you can select verts or points. You can also select edges or faces. Multiplier, you can change that up here. Drag mode, you can switch between C-plane, view, UV, N, world, and back to C-plane. I generally only use the C-plane and view mode. Soft manipulation, so you can select a few points and it has a focal feedback, and we'll cover that in another lesson. Hotkeys, you always want to keep it on. Retopo snap, we're not going to be doing that in this lesson, so you can always keep it disabled for now. And speed, let's keep it at compatible. All right, in the next lesson, we will go over some basic exercises of how to build, manipulate, and use some of the commands that we're going to be using in this course.